This happened to me about 2.5 years ago. It was October, almost Halloween, and my husband and I were out seeing one of our favorite bands with another couple. Huge, well-known metropolitan area. We were completely wasted, drinking screwdrivers and shots of Jackfire. A friend we were with went to go refill our drinks, and when he came back, he had a girl with him who looked to be around our age. In reality, she could have been anywhere from 18 to 28. He tells us that the girl has lost her dad, and she wants us to help her find him. We were so drunk and just having an awesome time, so we told her, "We can't really help you look for your dad, but you can stand here with us until you find him, or he finds you, or whatever. No big deal at this point." So the girl stands with me the whole time. We're holding on to each other and dancing. We both know every word to every song, and it was actually just an amazing time. So fast forward a couple of songs, this is when things start getting weird. She starts begging for me to come back to her hotel with her and her dad. She's saying stuff like, "I promise it's not weird. It's not going to be creepy. I swear, we're not the cops," and just overall weird shit like that. She would not shut up about this. She wanted me to come back with her and her dad so bad. I can't really remember everything she said, because like I said, I was inebriated. But what I'll never forget is the most creepy, weird feeling that washed over me when she was saying all of this to me. My husband wasn't paying much attention, so he didn't hear what she was saying. For some unknown reason, the friend that we came with, who's married to the guy that brought this crazy girl to us in the first place, turned around and starts cussing the shit out of the crazy girl. I don't remember what she was saying, but it was along the lines of, "You need to fuck off." And at that moment, I turned to my husband and said, "This bitch is creeping me out. Let's lose her." And so we ran away to the lobby area. I was so scared she was going to find us or track us down or something. I've always just got the most weird feeling when I think about that night. That girl wanted something from me, but I don't know what it was. It could have been that she just was having a good time with me and wanted it to continue after the show. Her being there with her quote-unquote dad, though, is what made it so weird for me for some reason. I got the vibe that they could have been human traffickers, or an occult, or something sinister. The fact that I was so drunk and my spidey senses still went off like they did, that's why I can't shake the feeling I could have been in some creepy danger that night. A few nights ago, this happened to me, and I keep thinking about it. Now, I work in the criminal justice field where I see a lot of crime, and I'm also naturally a follower of this subreddit, scary movies, and scary stories in general, so I have to disclaim that I do have a heightened sense of paranoia sometimes. But my girlfriend and her roommate both agreed that this was weird. I was out walking my girlfriend's roommate's dog, as she was working a night shift in their neighborhood, which is a very safe suburb of New York. I walked across the parking lot into this field, in the middle of a rotary, or roundabout, whatever you call them, and was screwing around in Reddit since it was near midnight, and in the middle of quarantine, and there were no cars out. The dog has a dog leash, so she was sniffing around, and then I kind of saw her stop and stare towards the road. I looked up and saw a black SUV stopped in the rotary. I pulled on my COVID mask that was on my chin. Since no one was around, I had it off, as some people in New York are touchy about that, understandably, just in case they stopped to lecture me, and I didn't care to engage in a dumb argument. I looked back at my phone and then back up, and the SUV was still there. There was a family, mother, father in the front, and a 12-year-old daughter in the back seat. I was a bit startled because they were all just blankly staring directly at me. I sort of waved and nodded and started walking the dog a bit across the grass again, and they started to slowly move. They came around the rotary, and I looked back, and all of them were again staring directly at me. I figured they may talk to me, so I stopped and waited for them to get around the circle, but when they approached, they kept driving very slowly, all staring directly at me still. I gave another half wave, and they drove past me, still slow and staring, back around the circle, then again around the circle, Literally all of them blanket staring at me, even the little girl in the back seat. I put my arms up in like a shrugging gesture, as if to say, "What the fuck?" They did this a couple more times, and I started to walk up to the edge of the circle to engage. Normally something I wouldn't do, but it was a family, so I sort of felt a bit more brave to do so. They sped up a bit and went around the corner and turned off the rotary. I started to feel even weirder, so I decided I would walk back to her apartment building when they entered the rotary again. I was watching them out of the corner of my eye, and they were still staring. I started picking up the pace, and they turned off the rotary towards me, and I picked up the pace as they followed me. Once I got to the sidewalk, I turned around because I didn't want them to know which door I was walking into. It's on a strip mall with a few other apartment buildings and stores, and they stopped about 30 feet behind me, and they were all staring out the front window. The little girl was now in the center seat, staring too. I once again raised my arms to be like, "Can I help you?" And no response at all from them. I kind of stood there in no movements, and I took my phone back and typed out their license plate into a note app. Again, a weird thing I do probably from my work in criminal defense, and general paranoia and not really knowing what I'd do with it. Then they slowly turned to the other side of the parking lot, all still staring, until I got to the end of the lot, and I rushed into the apartment building, which luckily needs a code to enter. I got up and told my girlfriend, and then her roomie in the morning, and they both were kind of freaked out. I watched them out of her window, and they pulled back up to where I was standing on the sidewalk, and just sat there in their car. I couldn't see them at this point, but the roof of their car. It felt like 10 minutes, and they slowly drove away. I can't stop thinking about their creepy-ass blank stare at me. Somehow it made it creepier that it was a normal-looking family with a young daughter. If it was like two younger guys, I could have marked it off as they were just bored, screwing with me. But this was just blank, unmoving expressions that made it so eerie. To that weird family in the black SUV, let's not meet, even though I'm desperate for an explanation. I'm a 20-year-old female, and this story took place when I was around 11. I remember this day clearly because it was the first day I was ever allowed to walk to school and back by myself. Up until the age of 14, I lived in what we thought was a safe place in Chautauqua County, New York. Everyone knew everyone. If you thought you would get away with something, then be prepared to have your ear abused by the time you got home. There was this one day, though. It was a cold winter day, and school unfortunately was still open. So all the neighborhood kids had to walk through knee-high inches of snow just to get to school. It took me longer to leave my house, as I was used to walking with my older sister to school, since she knew the routes better than me. I always used to make fun of her for being paranoid and taking a different route every day from school, but after that day, I learned that was what saved my life. As I was waiting by the door to leave, my mom came up to me and told me that I should ride with her to drop me off, because my sister was too sick to go today. Being a brat, I made a big deal about walking by myself, because I was almost 12 years old, and all my friends' parents let them walk alone. She looked at me for a long while, then told me to make sure I pay attention to cars. I got hit by a car and almost died when I was 9, so the worry that showed on her face was well warranted. I hurriedly nodded and headed out the door to go to school. My sister didn't like to dilly-dally, so she was always in a rush to get to school early, but seeing as it was just me, I thought it would be a good idea to take my time. I would play in the brown slush that was left on the side of the road, and even make funny-looking snowballs to see how far I could throw them. Halfway to school, I noticed a white van following me. Being the playful child I was, if I had not been bending down to make another snowball, I wouldn't have noticed it slowly creeping up the street. I told myself I was just being stupid, but continued more hurriedly to school. Once I got to school, I took a quick glance over my shoulder and saw the van a few feet behind me. It wasn't until I was on school grounds that it drove away fast by me. I thought that would be the end of it, but throughout the day when I would stare out the window, the van would be there. I assumed that it never really left, just parked. Many adults would try to convince me years later that maybe it wasn't the same one, but I knew it was. This van had a bright yellow smile emoji sticker on it. I couldn't see who was in the van, but through the tinted glass, I knew they could see me. It was now the end of the day, and I wasn't ready to go home. It was too late to call my mom because she was at work, and my sister was homesick. I had to suck it up and start walking home. I tried to blend in with a group of kids, but most of them were car riders, and the others didn't live near me. Remembering what my sister told me, I took another route home. I didn't memorize this route clearly, but I decided anything was better than being spotted by that van. I made it to my main street, but then realized my mistake too late. The route I took led back to the main street where I walked to school. Hidden behind a row of cars was the white van with the smiley emoji sticker. I tried to stay calm and walk past it, but once I heard the van door slightly click open, I ran. I could hear the rush of 2 pairs of heavy footfalls behind me. They were getting closer, so I did what any normal kid would do. I cut corners. I cut into someone's backyard until I was directly in sight of my house, and forced myself into the thick snow to make it to the door. My heart was racing, not because I was running, but because I could still hear them behind me. I made it to the door and banged with all my might until someone came to the door. My sister looked confused, but one look at my face, she pulled me inside and locked the doors. The van was still outside. Truthfully, it stayed out there until my brother got home. Me and my sister don't talk about it, but we both know how close it was to me going missing. I hadn't thought about this incident in years, but one of my hometown friends showed me an article that came out in 2013. Apparently some men kidnapped and sexually assaulted a girl my age. It wouldn't have scared me if it hadn't mentioned the white van. Whoever you are that attempted to kidnap me and do God knows what else, let's not meet.